welcome to Workshop 2. So what's the purpose of Workshop 2? Well, we're going to understand what a headless server is. We're going to implement the remote access facilities through SSH, and we're going to look at how we can take the DHCP allocated address and turn the machine into a statically addressed server. To do that, we're going to have to change the network configuration files, so we'll have to look at where they're stored on a 2004 machine. Okay, so what we have to do is create a virtual machine in VMware from scratch. We need to set the machine name, the user ID, the username to student, the password to Northumbria, make sure it has 2 gig of memory, and set the network card to bridged. What we'll then do is, once we've got the machine up and running, we'll identify the DHCP allocated address and we'll change that at a later date. Once we've done that, at that stage, what we'll do is close the machine down, copy the folder and create our bare bones basic template for future machines. And we will use the shutdown command to actually do that. We hit point 3 and at that point we restart our machine. So we'll stop at this point and we'll do those first 2 sections. Okay then, so the first thing we need to do, we need to get VMware running. So there's VMware. Next thing, we now go create a new machine. We browse and we pick up the live server DVD, sorry. It's an image, an ISO image. We pick it and it identifies 2004 detected. So we go next. Next thing we do, we can personalize Linux. Now at the moment this doesn't work, so it doesn't really matter what we put in here, it's not going to do much. Whatever we're going to call the machine, in this case it was the username, we will have to do this again, but just in case at some stage that this gets fixed, we'll put the details in anyway. Username, student, password, Northumbria, password, Northumbria. Okay, and we go forward. Next thing, we give the machine a name. Now this is the virtual machine name. This is what appears in the title bar. So in this case, we'll give this the machine the same as our ID, CGNE1 for me. And then we'll pick a location where we want to store it. So we'll go browse. In my case, I want to go to the D drive where I've got mine stored. I go to the virtual machines folder. And in here, I'll actually create my server. So I go new folder and we'll call this one just server for now. That'll be sufficient. That's just the folder name. We say OK, and now we can see it's going to save it in that location. So we go next. Next thing it will ask us for is what kind of disk capacity we want. We'll allow it to split. We'll take the 20 to 20 gig. Say next, and now it comes up and gives us the details we've set up. Now these are the machines, these are the details for the virtual machine, not the Linux install. So we need to be aware of that. This is the virtual environment configuration. And if we notice at this point, we've got a NAT addressed adapter, which is no good. So we change the hardware, select adapter, change it to bridged and say close. And that's our machine now configured the way we want it. We've given it a name, a location, 20 gig hard drive, 2 gig of memory, bridge network card. And at this point, if I now hit finish, notice the checkbox is here for powering on the virtual machine. So if I power it on, it will automatically boot, and now we're working with Linux. VMware is now booting as though it was a machine. I'll just move this over here for a moment. And this is as though you were sitting at a physical hardware machine and working with it. As though you'd put the CD in, you're sitting at the keyboard and console. There's the boot just about finished. It's identified various bits and pieces that it needed to, and it's now actually loading the operating system. So that's the bootloader out the way, and it's now going into the installation process. Okay, the machine looks like it's boot and installed, but hasn't quite, and there we are. Now we're into the installer. Now we select the options that we need for the operating system, that this is Ubuntu server. So first of all, we will take the fact that we want it in English. So as English, first thing it does is offer us a US keyboard. So if we move up over, Select that, turn that to a UK keyboard, and we can continue. It's now doing the network configuration. It's gone to the network and it's used DHCP and identified an address. We'll take that as the default installation. It asked me if I use a proxy on the network. I don't. It now asks which servers I want to use for my repositories. So we'll use the standard ones that it provides. Next, it's going to look at the hard drive and say, how do we want to use that 20 gig hard drive that we created? Now, this is the operating system now using the virtual environment and going, you have a 20 gig hard drive. What do you want to do with it? Well, in our case, all we're going to do is use the entire disk. So again, we're just using the default. So we go down to done, select done, and now it's going to tell us, okay, there's your drive. That's how I'm going to format the drive for you. So we accept that. It now says, are we sure? Because now what it will do is it's a destructive process and it's actually going to wipe the hard drive. It's actually going to wipe the partition table. So yes, we do. Now it's going to let me set up the name of the machine in the first account. So first name, let's call it student. We want to call this machine name. Well, we're going to call it CGNE1 because that's my user ID. Username for using it, student. And password is Northumbria. And again, Northumbria. So I select them and that will create the first account and give my machine a name. It's now asking me, do I want to install OpenSSH server? Now this is a common thing that you would do. However, I don't know which version of what software it's going to put in here. So I don't want to do that. I want to have a bare bones machine to start with. So I'll not select that and I'll say done. It now offers me various potential functionality for the machine. Again, I'm going to build it from the ground up, so I skip them. And now the installation has taken place. The kernel's been put on the hard drive, all of the various tools, etc. for the operating system. So at this point, we just have to wait. Okay, at this point, it now comes up and says downloading and installing the updates. We just wait, allow it to do all that, and then it comes up with reboot. At this point, the actual operating system will reboot. The virtual machine won't shut down. It will simply allow this to reboot because it's acting like a physical machine. So we reboot. And it starts to install. Now bear in mind, this is the first time it's been boot after the install. So there's quite a few processes that need to still be executed. So it will look as though the machine's finished installing and give us a prompt, but it hasn't. We have to give it a moment just to finish off. So it looks like it's finished, but if we wait just a moment, there we go. It's just finishing off now. Now it only does this the first time. Now it looks like at this point that it's stopped. It has, because if I hit the return key, I now get my prompt. So I can quite happily log in now with my student Northumbria account. There we go, I'm logged in. So what can I do now? Well, let's have a look at what we're supposed to do. Identify the address given to the machine. Okay, so we'll do that before we move on. IP A. Oh, click inside, IP A. Hit return, and we've got our loopback adapter. And then we've got ENS33, and just below there, we've got the allocated DHCP address of 10.168.100.40. So that's our address. What we can also do is we can go IP -4 addresses. Now we get a much shorter list, as we can see, it's there. Second one down, 10.168.100.40. Okay, so what's the next thing we need to do? Now we need to shut down the machine. So we type in sudo shutdown -halt now. That's the machine shut down and it's gone. Okay, so what next? We need to make a backup of that machine. So let's go to my virtual machine folder. And there is the machine we just created. So all we have to do is simply go copy paste. And when that's finished, we'll rename the folder, and that's the backup done. Okay, that's the backup done, so we rename the folder. We'll just rename it to server template. And we're done. Okay, so that's my server template done. Next thing I need to do is restart the machine. So I'll go back into the server, pick up my machine, double click, and we'll start the machine that way. So let's move that folder out of the way. And we can start the next thing. The next thing we want to do is we want to modify the server to put in a static configuration. Okay, now if we were in the laboratory, these are the settings we would use. Choose one from my batch. I actually have my own batch on my network, so I'll be installing this with an address of 10.168.100.150. My subnet is the same, but my DNS and my gateway are going to be different. Okay, so we have my machine up and running. Next thing I do is I log in as student, Northumbria. And I'm now logged in. Now, this first account that I create, the student account, has system privileges. That is one of the things it will do with this account. So I can use the sudo command. So if I move to the etc folder, netplan, I'm now in the configuration folder. If I list the files, I can see there's one file there. I need to have super user privileges to edit it. So I go sudo, I'm going to use the nano editor, hit the tab key because there's only one file there and it displays it. Put in my password for the student account and I'm now ready to edit it. As we can see, we've got network, Ethernet, ENS33, it's using DHCP and it's version 2. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move that up to the top, the version 2. So I'll go delete that line and put that line at the top. Now I want to disable the DHCP so I don't get multiple addresses. And now I can start adding in my addresses. So the first thing I'm going to do is say, what address do I want this machine to have? Addresses. And in there, I'm only going to give it one address. 10.168.100.150. And it's on a /16 network. So that's the first part done. Next thing, I need to add my gateway. So I can get outside of this network. So gateway 4. And the address of my gateway is 10.168.100.254. And what else do I need? Next, I need the name servers. So at the same level, indented in, name servers. And now I need to put more options in for this. So 2 indents, addresses. What addresses am I going to put in? Well, I'm going to put in the Google addresses for my DNS for this machine. So 8.8.8.8 and 8.8.4.4. And that's all I need. So I'll save that. 12 lines written. I'll exit out. And if we now go down, it says here, what else do I do? That's the, I'll create my own in the laboratory, that's fine. I'm going to add the SSH services. Not yet. First things first, if I do IPA, I'm logged in at the console and I can see I still have that dynamically allocated address. To now push through the changes I've made, sudo netplan apply. And that's it done. And I can check that with IPA. Type in IPA and at the bottom I can see I have 10.168.100.150, which is what I wanted. Just going to do a quick test. Let's ping the Google servers, one of the Google servers, to make sure I have a connection through the gateway. And I've got a response. So I've now correctly allocated my static address. So if I restart this machine, it will always have that address, and I make sure that that machine, that IP address, is not in the DHCP anywhere. Okay, so that's that done. So what's the next job? The next job is I need to add in the SSH services, OpenSSH. It's fine. And then what do I do after that? I test the connectivity with putty, etc. No problem. So we come back to here and we go sudo apt install SSH, open SSH server. That's not a problem, all done. Okay, so that's that done. So next thing before I move on, haven't done this for a while, sudo apt update. Let's check those repositories, make sure they're okay. They are, and I have a few packages that are upgradable now, so I'll upgrade them while I'm here. There we go, and that's my upgrades done. Okay, so that's done. Now we've got all the connectivity in. The next thing I want to do is open up my virtual client. So if we go to here, and the client I created was called Focal, so we'll open up that machine now and we'll use this to do the connectivity. So while that's starting, I'll quickly go to the server machine and check the IP address. So we've got 10.168.100.150. and that's how I'll connect to it. So if we go back to our machine here, give ourselves a little bit of space. Okay, so we've got our virtual machine here, so we'll log in, student account, just make this a little bit bigger. And the password I have here is Northumbria. Okay, so here's my desktop machine that I'm going to use. Here's the server. On my client machine here, what I'm going to do is open up a terminal, Control-Alt-T, and I'll make sure I've got Wireshark installed. So I'll just do a sudo apt install Wireshark, Northumbria, and we've now got it installed. Okay, so what we'll do now is, using the sudo command, we'll run Wireshark. There we go. We pick our network card. We're capturing traffic. I now go to a second terminal. It's there. If I do IPA, I can see what my address is on my machine now. 10.168.113. So what we can do now is we can do an SSH and we'll log into the server. So student at 10.12168.100.150. Oh, wrong, Control-C, keyboard error. Sorry about that. At SSH, student at 150. So we connect in, say yes, password, Northumbria, and there we go. I'm logged into the server now. If I do IPA, I can see that the address of the machine I'm on now is the 150. So that is the server. So I am now remotely connected from the client machine to the server. So let's have a look at the traffic. If we now go to Wireshark, stop the connection, and let's do a filter on SSH traffic. And lo and behold, 150 to 13. So I can actually see the connectivity. Now what I can't do is see anything that's in there. If I go right to the very top though, if we have a look, we've got the connection from there. So let's do a right click and we'll do a follow TCP stream. We can see right at the top here, there's the SSH communications. There's an exchange of keys, and then there's all the encrypted data. So that's great. That's what we were hoping to see. So what we can do now is if we now drop out of Wireshark, let's close a few terminals here. And let's see what we've got to do next. Okay, so we're testing the remote connectivity. It's on the machines, used Wireshark, managed it. Now we need to install Telnet on the server. So let's pull the server back up. So it's a server, so now we'll go sudo apt install telnet d Northumbria, and we'll install that. So now we've got Telnet installed as well as SSH. So that's done. So what we'll do now is notice it's telling me to use a filter here of TCP port 23. So we'll do that in a second. So let's now bring the client machine up, bring up a terminal, and check we've got Telnet. So Telnet to 10.168.100.150. Yes, it's letting me do that. So what we'll do is we'll drop out of that, and we'll now open up on here Wireshark. So we'll open up another terminal and we'll run Wireshark. So sudo Wireshark Northumbria, capture the traffic. Let's go back to our machine with the Telnet connection, and let's Telnet back into the server. So that's Telnet into 10.168.100.150. Asking me for a login, so student and Northumbria. And there we are, IP A, so I can see I'm on the server. Okay, so let's go back to Wireshark and stop that connection. Now let's have a look and let's do some filtering. Notice we've got a lot of things here saying Telnet. Okay, what we'll do is we're going to do a filter. Let's move this over, and it says here filter on TCP port 23. So TCP dot port equivalent to 23. And there we have all of the Telnet traffic. If we right click on this and say follow the stream, lo and behold, we come in, login prompt. Notice here we've got student double typed. That's because we typed it in and it's echoed back. So one of those is the send, one of them is the receive. Unfortunately, when it prompts us for the password and we type in Northumbria, it's actually obtainable from the network in clear text. I then started listing things up on the screen. I got my initial banner, and then I did an IP. Where is it? There it is, IPA. And what does it do? It comes back and gives me a breakdown of the network card, and there we go. So all of the communications here are in plain text. That's not good. Okay, we'll close that. And we'll close down Wireshark because we don't need it. Close our client terminals, and let's have a look and see what we've got to do next. Examine the traffic, which we've done. Find what's visible. We have. Okay, we can shut down the server now. And we'll shut down the client too. We know how to do that already. So we'll power off. And that's that done. Bring up the server. I'm connected to the server now, so we can shut the server down. So we go shut down -halt now. Okay, so that's all the testing done. Time permitting, research how to change student password and how to add another user. Well, that's time permitting, so that's a job for yourselves. Okay, that's workshop 2.